Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter, and I'm welcoming you to yet another Cutter Degrassi retrospective, where each Sunday I give you a couple of seasons of Degrassi stuff and describe the episodes and describe more Cliff's notes on some powerful episodes. I started with Kids at Degrassi Street because I remember I never really did an episode about Kids at Degrassi Street, and there was actually some lead in to like Degrassi Junior High and High and all that that I did. Talked about those seasons and all that. Talked about the first two seasons of Degrassi Next Gen in the last video. I'm hoping not to go too long into the next two seasons, seasons 3 and 4. Of course, those were kind of the glory days of Degrassi. So season 3 had a lot of things: dysfunctional families, sex, homosexuality, homophobia, theft, self-harm, domestic violence, abortion, emancipation, and relationships. Emancipation. Anyway, the third season started on Wednesdays on CTV at 8:30 Eastern Time and had a 60-minute special, which formed the first two episodes of the season. 669,000 viewers in Canada per episode. US, it had 250,000, which isn't half bad. It was groundbreaking and bold. And of course, the groundbreaking and boldness caused two episodes to be banned from US TV screens for 3 years. So anyway, cast and crew, a lot of things happened and all of that. So the reception was pretty good. It was one of the best episodes of all time. All that. So yeah, it was like one of the best seasons of all time. So we started with Father Figure on September 17th, 2003 in Canada, October 3rd, 2003 in the US. I guess it was on Fridays. So anyway, Father Figure, the subplot was better than what was not like the main plot. So the subplot is that Spinner tries to find the perfect gift for Paige to have their bond as boyfriend and girlfriend. However, Paige complains about her locker, so Spinner tries to do what they call locker swapping to get Paige the locker, and she didn't really like it, not realizing how much Spinner went through all that trouble. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't work out, and Raditch, in his first episode without the Chuck Norris like mustache, basically becoming more of a dysfunctional, stern man, tells Spinner that everyone has to have their lockers back by a certain day because, well, you can't really switch lockers without letting the 40s know because it's for safety and for um, privacy things. However, Paige does tell Spinner she appreciates his effort. Of course, Father Figure is the episode in which Emma's ready to welcome a new sibling to the world and asks Spike point blank about her father because she doesn't know much about her father and all that. Unfortunately, Spike is of little help, and Emma sets out on a crusade to find out about her father, even if he was dead and all that. All that. We all know, of course, the audience knows about Spike keeping Shane from Emma for obvious reasons. So Emma then finds out through Snake's alumni stuff that he's in Stoveville, but he's not a doctor like Emma thinks he is. He's a mental patient, if you will. So anyway, Emma gets irritated when Hatzalakos calls her Emma Simpson instead of Emma Nelson, like she's preferred to be called, and that infuriates her. So she finds out about Shane and is upset with Spike about what happened and all that. Snake takes the perfect steps and tells Emma what the problem was all about. Like, the whole story that, Shane wanted to be in Emma's life, but his parents didn't want him to, and Spike sometimes didn't want him to. So Shane took acid at a concert and fell off or jumped off. We don't know what happened, and that's why he's there with brain damage. At least he's alive, in a sense. Shane somehow manages to escape Stouffville to the Simpson home and creates a fuss and actually gets to go into labor at the house. Fortunately, though, everything goes point to point. You Got the Look is the episode in which Maddie wants to be with a guy named Solly, and so on Paige's recommendation, she shouldn't be cute or adorable. She should be hot. Unfortunately, Emma has problems with it, thinking that she's easy prey for things and all that. And JT starts to crush on her, I guess because of her luck and all that. So yeah, that's what happens and all that. Manny's hotness does help Emma's environmental club, but Emma realizes it's all for the wrong reasons and doesn't want to do it anymore. Pride is the fourth and fifth episodes. This was the episode in which we find out that Marco finally has to kind of come out of the closet because Ellie refuses to be with him and all that. And he falls for Paige's gay brother Dylan and all that. So Spitter sets up Hazel with Marco. Marco leaves for his mom's pasta sauce. Spitter goes bonkers, but Marco tells him that there's a reason because he's gay. Unfortunately, Spitter writes homophobic stuff on the bathroom wall. Now, there was a CTV promo for this in which we see the actual three-letter thing instead of just Marco as a homo. They put the three-letter word thing. You know what I mean. I'm not going to say it, obviously. So, anyway, Marco is upset. Marco then tries to go to Dylan's hockey game, but a group of guys jump him for being gay and all that. Fortunately, Jimmy saves Marco from harm. Basically, Spinner is given a massive freeze by everybody, so he should. In the meantime, the subplot actually was big too. Some say, oh, the subplot wasn't that big. It actually was. Snake had an illness that has spontaneous bleeding and dizziness and finds out he has leukemia. For all the things talked about in season three, Snake's leukemia, I think, is got to be the most underrated issue of season three. And then Gangsta, the sixth episode came out, and Sean hangs out with the bad crew, like Jay's crew and all that. Well, Jay's impressed by Sean holding his own in a fight with him. Emma, of course, doesn't have much time for Sean because of the fact that she has to deal with a new baby brother and a ill step parent. So anyway, Toby is upset that JT is spending time with Paige instead of him. So yeah, so Sean hangs out a lot with the kids and, causes kind of a breakup with Emma. Should I say or should I go is the episode in which Craig and Ashley have an intense encounter with sex is a desire, and then actually writes a song to Ashley. Manny hears it and is smitten with him and consoling him after he fights with Ashley. Joey then takes Snake out to go bowling, even though Snake is not too sure about it with the leukemia. However, it's for fun, and then they find out that Wheels is there. Of course, Snake's apprehensive because Wheels, did some horrible things and basically Snake shunned him. Wheels said that he felt like he wanted to die and he deserved to die and all that. But however, they all bond together and they do the Everybody Loves Something Wants Something song. Whisper to a Scream is when Ellie finds out that her father, a colonel in the military, is going overseas to Afghanistan and her mother just can't handle it and starts drinking and all that. Ellie has a stress at a co-op job, and then it causes her to zip herself in the wrist and all that. So this was the episode. So yeah, so Ellie started doing all that. Paige catches her at it and tells Ellie she needs help and all that, which is one of Paige's few good moments. I find. The controversy was big because in Montreal, three girls started doing that, and CTV had to make a massive apology. The backup, I mean, the subplot was when Terry finds out she's getting roses from a secret admirer, thinks it's Toby, but it's not, it's Rick, and that sets up trouble. Against all odds, number 9 is when Sean and Emma are finally broken up, and Emma finds out she wants to be with Chris and all that. Manny tries to get Craig's attention. They go to a rave, and Manny tells Emma to go after Chris, even though that Emma thinks that Chris has a girlfriend named Miranda and all that. So, they go to the rave and all that. Emma finally decides she can't be that evil and well, no, she she couldn't. Manny and Craig go back to Emma's house of all things and make out. And of course, Emma's left behind. Emma and Manny go bonkers at each other, and Emma says, "You gotta stop sexualizing yourself. This is trouble. This isn't you." Manny then yells at her, saying that she's a prude princess, but Emma gets one over on Manny, saying that I don't want to be with the school slut. And and people actually back up Emma on this. People crap on Emma on Reddit, but you know, this is one. Never gonna give you up is when Terry has a new boyfriend in her life. However, Terry starts getting cuts and bruises, and Rick shows his jealousy towards Terry. Terry thinking that she's going to be with Jimmy and all that. So he sabotages her acting thing. But finally, Terry has enough and gets rid of him. Holiday is the Christmas episode that you'll obviously see on Christmas. So, strange as it sounded, it was actually made a week after This Charming Man. But anyway, Holiday is when Craig keeps the love triangle with Ashley and Manny going and loses both of them seemingly. So, he's upset and all that. And then Joey and Sydney are serious until Caitlin has feelings for Joey. And Caitlin, being a prick and all that, they really took her character and stripped it of it many good things between Degrassi High and Next Gen, because she's just more of a jealous person. I don't know why. It ruins Joey and Sydney's relationship. I mean, Caitlin of all people. I thought Caitlin and Joey were not really supposed to be together. Anyway, This Charming Man is when Chris and Emma are a couple. Unfortunately, Sean and the Candy Bandits, well, soon to be called the Candy Bandits, I guess, like Jay and Alex and them, are stealing stuff from Degrassi. Sean gets accused by Radich. He's obviously thinks that Radich has it out for him, but with good reason. So Emma decides to find a way to bring Sean to justice. Unfortunately, though, Sean and his friends may be stealing stuff from Degrassi, but they sell it quicker than you can say Superman, as I say in many videos in the past. Sean does get in trouble for bad mouthing Radich, and Emma thinks she's got justice, but Chris says that basically Emma only wanted to destroy Chris because Chris found somebody, and Emma couldn't stand that. Emma worries she's lost Chris, but Snake tells her he can get her back and all that. Accidents Will Happen is the two-parter that was shown in Canada January 26th and February 9th, 2004, but was not shown till August 2006 in the US because, the topic of abortion and all that. I get it. The only reason why it was even shown in the States, even though that it was on LimeWire, like the illegal software thing, was due to the fact that Cassie Steele, Manny, picked it for a Degrassi marathon, and they had to do it. So accidents will happen. I don't want to go too much into detail. I just say that Manny ends up being pregnant after showing signs of it, and Craig is the father, obviously, and she doesn't know what to do. She confides in Spike, who is, of course, a teen mom, and Manny realizes she can't really let her parents know because they'll send her back to the Philippines to a convent like her cousin. So anyhow, Manny has to figure out a way to do it. Unfortunately, though, Ashley spills Manny and Craig's secret and all that in front of the whole school. They fail miserably at taking care of baby Jack. Manny realizes she can't be a mother and decides to have an abortion. Craig and Emma are upset. Emma surprisingly talks to Manny. I thought Emma and Manny were over forever. But anyway, Emma says adoption's the best option. And, she's right in a sense. I mean, Manny can have the baby, but she doesn't have to take care of it in a sense. Craig, of course, is upset with Manny wanting to abort it, not tipping his hands over the fact that, he needed this because, his family is destroyed. His parents are both dead. Well, his father, rightfully so. And he doesn't really treat Joey that well. Emma then steps in to protect Manny and says that, it's her body, her right to choose. And if she wasn't my best friend, I'd be miffed. and all that. And of course, Manny's shocked that Emma would actually protect her. All that they start being friends again. In the meantime, Sean doesn't want Liberty to stay be with JT because JT doesn't isn't interested in her. However, Sean sets Liberty up with what was that guy's name? The silent, not Tracker. Not Chris. Liberty and Towers. That's it. Yeah, Liberty with Towers, the strong silent type. And then also in the subplot, Toby wants to be in the in group, like in the in crowd. So he helps Jimmy try to change his math grade. However, he gets caught by Radich and they both serve as out of detention. Take on Me is, of course, the homage to the Breakfast Club, which kind of is underrated in my mind. And basically, Hazel, Ellie, Jimmy, Toby, and Sean are stuck in Radish's Saturday detention and all that. And the homage to the Breakfast Club. So anyway, Hazel's in because she looked at some illegal sites. Although some people do question it, thinking that Hazel probably was there as a spy by Radich to see if everything goes according to plan. Ellie gets in trouble for skipping classes too many times. She does have her problems. She does go to Sauve for therapy and all that, but it's starting to get bad and all that. And of course, everyone suspects she's the mole because she had a tape recorder, but she only did for a story for the paper, but she destroys the tape. Jimmy and Toby are there because the changing grades on a school computer. I agree that detention is worthy. It actually is the best of options because Radich could have easily suspended them or put them in the thing with the police. And then Sean gets in trouble for insulting Radich, but all the times that Radich is basically like people talk to him about Radich, his behavior and all that. Radich doesn't take criticism well. I can understand that. Simpson steps in after coming back from leukemia and says that they're all kids and all that. And Radich decides to let them go. Don't Dream It's Over is the famous episode, February 23rd, 2004, when Rick puts Terry in the coma and all that. He gets a little bit jealous. He really gets jealous and all that. So, Paige plans the weekend road trip with Spinner. Jimmy and Hazel are around. They're a couple. And Terry's in, but Terry doesn't want to be a fifth wheel and all that, although everyone else says she should be fine. Terry then goes back with Rick. Everyone looks after Terry as it sends. But, of course, Rick walks away when Paige insults him. Terry tries to calm him down. Rick is upset that Terry is showing more thing for Paige over him. I mean, Rick has a point that he's just upset that that Paige is putting Terry in her shadow and all that. That's the only good thing. That's the only thing he's right about. Unfortunately, though, he puts her head on a rock. She's in a coma. Rick runs off. Spinner and Paige try to destroy Rick because of what he did and all that. Of course, Terry's dad is upset that Spinner and Paige didn't tell him about Rick's violent behavior, but then he comes around and all that. So anyway, that's what happened. Rock and Roll High School is when Craig's band faces Ashley's band in the Battle of the Bands, but unfortunately Ashley writes a skating song insulting Craig and all that. And then Craig writes some sappy song that gets Ashley back, which is stupid. Chris Woodward of the Blue Jays was in this episode. He would go on to be a manager for the Texas Rangers. It's Raining Man. The 19th episode is when Marco is prepared for his first date and sets his sights on Dylan. Spinner actually helps Marco out with the date and all that, coming to terms with Marco's homosexuality. JT hosts a party because he's in a commercial for French fries, but the commercial is very cheesy and all that. I Want Candy is when Paige and Spinner decide to skip school for fun and fight Ashley, who's still depressed over her breakup with Craig. And even though Ashley has a right to be mad at Craig, she's still doom and gloom. So this was, of course, kind of the homage to Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So they decided to skip school for fun. Ashley is, of course, upset. She wants to move away from Degrassi because of all the hurt she's had and all that. uh, Paige tells her to snap out of it that Craig was the bad guy. Why are you upset over this? They actually bump into Radish with a mysterious blonde. Through a deleted scene, we find out that blonde was Miss Hatzelakos, of all freaking people. At least we know Radish is straight and all that. In the subplot, Radish isn't around. Snake isn't around. Emma has to clean up computers as punishment for talking in class and then finds Snake's will and panics. But Snake says it's a last ditch attempt in case something does go wrong. Fortunately for Emma, nothing goes wrong and the will doesn't need to be used. Our House, the 21st episode, is when Sean's brother Tracker is going to move to Alberta and take Sean with him. Sean wants to stay back in Toronto to finish his education. Unfortunately, though, he needs to move up with good grades and all that. He can go on student welfare, but his grades need to go up and he needs to have good character and all that. The Power of Love is the final. No, sorry. Our House was the episode. No, sorry. Yeah. So Sean has the thing. The Power of Love is the end of year dance at Degrassi. And yes, it was culturally inappropriate because it was a Bollywood dance. Jimmy wants to make it perfect for their dates and all that. Of course, they had a limo driver played by Billy Ray Cyrus who caused a lot of problems. They had to pay for extra meals because, Paige, Ashley, and Spinner skipped out on their food when they tried to run away from Radish. And everything goes up in smoke in a sense. Sean decides to finally confess his role in stealing Snake's laptop just to get back at Emma. So he does all that. Simpson doesn't really forgive him until Simpson has car problems and Sean offers his help and all that. So that's what ends up happening and all that. So that's season 3. How long have I got? Wow, I'm going 22 minutes. I'm going to have to. Man, I'm gonna have to go quickly. Okay, so season 4 started September 7th, 2004 in Canada. It would be a Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Oh, it's at 8 and 8:30. So yeah, they showed 2 episodes. Yeah, the first, yeah, September 7th, Ghost in the Machine was when the two-parter that started this, and then September 21st and 28th, before Time Stands Still, they showed 2 episodes a day and all that. This was one of the most successful seasons for viewing figures. 2 episodes were watched by a million Canadian viewers. I can guess which one. And the average attendance was 600,000 people. And the end in the US had 500,000. All that, yeah. They said it was the darkest, most controversial season because of multiple storylines dealing with harsh and dark issues, especially Time Stands Still with the school shooting. So it was a massive reception. So the season premiere was Ghost in the Machine on September 7, 2004. That date is significant because that's the day I started at Conestoga College. That was my first day of college was September 7, 2004. And yes, I did not watch season 4 first run because, school and everything else, trying to navigate life away from home. So anyhow, Ghost in the Machine happened. This was when Paige finally gets her rape trial set in motion and all that, but she has second thoughts about things. However, Spinner tells her you can't go too far and all that. You have to do something like this. So anyway, they'll start a new school year and all that. Paige has some powerful testimony, even though Dean's lawyer grills her. She doesn't backfire. The judge announces that she was happy with Paige's testimony, but because of lack of evidence and all that, she had to let Dean go. Even Dean's lawyer looks shocked at Paige. I mean, that is the one weird thing. She had to be Dean's lawyer, but she figured Paige was telling the truth. So yeah, lack of evidence. I mean, wasn't Sauve's stuff about Paige admissible? Anyway, Paige is upset that Dean got off scot-free and even brags about it. But Paige does get Dean kicked out of his sorority. However, Paige takes things one step further by taking the Spinner's car and crashes her car into that car into Dean's car. Spinner gets in trouble. Spinner's willing to take the rap, but Paige finally decides, I need to take this rap. So she does and all that. She gets banned from driving for a year, has to be on community service, and, offers to pay Spinner back for his car. King of Pain is the episode in which Marco actually wants to be student council president and all that. But Alex comes in and threatens to out Marco as being gay. Fortunately, though, Alex doesn't go through with the plan. Marco wins the student council elections and allows Alex to be his VP. Meanwhile, Emma decides to get jealous over Chris being with Liberty, even though that Emma and Chris broke up over the summer. Of course, that was also the first episode was also when we find out Kendra and Toby and Liberty and Towers both broke up as a pair too. And the first episode was also the episode. Well, I'll talk about that later. But anyhow, Emma doesn't want Chris back, even though that she has feelings for it. She just doesn't want Chris being with Liberty because it would put Emma in a bad situation, even though that it just doesn't make sense. And it's like, why does Emma care about what people think of her? She does all her causes and all that stuff, and she doesn't care what people think of her, even Spike and Snake. Unfortunately, it breaks off Emma from Manny and Liberty, rightfully so, and starts the wheels towards some weird emotion. Mercy Street, the fourth episode, September 21st, 2004, is when Rick is back at Degrassi and all that. And everyone is upset that Rick's back, no strings attached, even though he got expelled. Although I doubt he got expelled because his parents basically may have pulled him out because Rick pulled some crocodile tears, I think. Of course, it begs the question, why was Rick back at the school? There was the deleted scene, which stupidly was a deleted scene, in which Marco and Alex tried to get Raj to think twice about letting Rick back in, but Raj basically says he has no criminal charge. What am I supposed to do about it? I mean, isn't he allowed to just go by his instincts? Maybe he did want Rick out of Degrassi because he thinks about um, revenge and all that stuff, but he didn't. Basically, the students think that Raj is just doing something stupid. Alex says something about GPA, and it does kind of make sense because, in the first episode, Armstrong and Raj talk about the budgeting and that Raj doesn't have the budgeting. Maybe the GPA goes up, they get more funding. I don't know. Unfortunately, it makes Raj look like a villain, more so after Emma hears about it and doesn't want Rick to come back and blocks him from the pathway. Emma is told by Raj, stay out of this. This is not one of your stupid crusades. Are you nuts? This is a crusade worth fighting for. Domestic violence. Yes, Emma may have bad causes, but, this is pathetic. And to me, it feels more like he's angry because Emma always undermines him. Well, unfortunately, that's what happened. Well, Emma did not do the Orange Ribbon campaign out of trying to destroy Radish for calling her causes stupid. It just added more fuel to the fire. With Manny and Liberty outing her, basically ousting her, she needed a friend group, and she goes to Paige's friend group, even though she was hypocritical, and everyone's right. So she does the Orange Ribbon campaign, but then finds out that the campaign is basically used as a way to destroy Rick and beat him up and all that. So, of course, Mercy Street is when JT gets a penis pump. But yeah, Mercy Street happens. Rick tries to give money for the cause. Alex rips up the check. Emma actually wants to accept the check, thinking that it's for the cause. Unfortunately, though, it's more than the cause. Emma then protects Rick from a beating from everybody else and loses the popular crowd, so she's basically an outcast. Rick then starts to have the crush on her. Fifth episode is Anywhere I Lay My Head, is when Ellie wants to move out of the house because her mother's drinking grows worse. In the meantime, Manny actually is in with the school's car wash and grows closer to the Spinner. Paige has to work to help Spinner's car. So all that. And then Rick comes back, but Jimmy shoots Rick in the back with a hose, which is foreshadowing. Islands in the Stream is when Paige has gone all beta, and Spin uses his newfound powers to sap whatever self-confidence Paige has left. So basically, Spinner is becoming a bitch to Paige about the whole card thing and all that. I would have just, if I was Paige, I would have just said, Find out your car on your own. You're screwed. I'm not helping you out. You're a bully. But Spinner probably would have gone meta on Paige. I don't know. Anyway, Rick and Toby are paired up, and then they both have mutual stuff. They like role playing games, and they have a bet to have kisses from girls at school. They have a list of girls they find attractive. Hatzalakos finds her way on the list somehow. Toby easily wins because no one wants to give Rick the time of day, but Toby gives Darcy $5 to kiss Rick out of pity. Unfortunately, Spinner and Jay are upset. And then Time Stands Still, the two-parter, October 5th and 12th, 2004. I release a lot of Time Stands Still videos on purpose on October 12th because that was part two and all that. Obviously, I'm not going to go deep into it, but if you like watching, all you have to do is just go to Cutter Historical, search Degrassi school shooting, because that is the name of one of my playlists, and you'll find stuff that's familiar with it. Cliff's notes, it's that Rick actually gets retaliatory action because of people hurting him by tagging Spinner Jay's car. Unfortunately, though, Spinner Jay and Alex strike back with the paint and feathers at the quiz competition. And, Rick wins the trophy but gets paint and feathered. Emma then spurns him and all that. Rick takes a gun to the school. Could have easily gone after Emma when they were sitting at the picnic table, but didn't. So he goes after Paige, but Paige calms him down and all that. Rick then puts the gun back in his locker and then is tricked by Spinner and Jay to go after Jimmy. He shoots Jimmy. He nearly shoots Emma, but Sean saves the day. There was a subplot that did lead to the main plot. It was when Joey has trouble selling his house and all that because his business is failing and all that, and enlists Sydney to help. Well, actually, Craig enlists Sydney to help because he's worried for Joey. Joey is, of course, too upset over what Craig did, and then Craig goes to school sick, and he just has to see Jimmy's prone body. Caitlin then buys the house, and then Caitlin and Joey run to the school because Caitlin's an investigative journalist, and they all find out all that. Of course, Time Stands Still is when the blame is passed around. Who is really to blame for Rick's demise? Well, Rick shot somebody. He's responsible for his own problems, even though that the administration basically gets blamed and all that. Back in Black is the episode on the Monday that the Degrassi students can come back. Sean has problems dealing with his emotions because he feels fine, but everyone tells him that he did shoot somebody. So he goes to Wasaga Beach to confront his parents, who made some kind of sob story in his mind about him. He takes a jet ski and almost hurts himself, but fortunately feels like he needs to come back to Wasaga and tell about the story about how guilty he was about shooting Rick, even though that he was a hero. And then Toby is massively shunned by JT and Danny because of the fact that Toby hung around with Rick. Fortunately, though, Manny chews JT out, saying that if you weren't with the popular crowd, Toby would not have easily been towards Rick, even though it is questionable why Toby would be with Rick, even though he knows Rick's problems. Fortunately, though, at Rick's, I guess, visitation/funeral, they patch things up and all that. Neutron Dance, the 10th episode, is when Craig has problems with his band and all that. Paige develops a crush on Olander, and that's when things start going downhill. Voices Carrie is when Ashley's dad's going to get married, a gay wedding. Craig wants to be with Ashley, so Craig thinks he and Ashley are an item and tells everyone they're engaged, although Ashley tells everyone that Craig's gone bonkers. Craig has really gone bonkers. He steals Joey's credit card for things, and things aren't the same. And this was also the episode of the subplot when JT and Liberty are told to kibosh Dracula because of the gory nature, because of what happened at the school. They're upset that Raj is basically doing that. And also, to add note, is that he wants a cheery musical to raise school spirits. Obviously, it's nothing more than a power trip, than to raise Raj's self-worth and all that, and they take him to task about it. And of course, as usual, he does not like to be confronted and lashes out. Snake did that to him twice in Time Stands Still Part 2, once in a deleted scene, once in the media room, and of course, JT and Liberty actually do share a kiss and they're closer together. So Raditch kind of did the same thing. Bark at the Moon is when Manny is actually attracted to Chester and is worried about being with Spinner and all that. Paige finds out she's with Mr. Olander. Her relationship with Olander is kind of awkward because, it's a teacher. And this was, of course, the last episode that Raditch was in because he got canned for his lack of foresight in the whole Rick situation. A lot of factors also ruined it too. But for me, I think it was the aftermath. If Raditch had any foresight to the everything, like the aftermath was supposed to be his time to redeem himself. I think the school board gave him a chance to redeem himself. He could have easily found out who did the painted feathers or found out something about the painted feathers. He could have easily remembered to talk to Spinner, have that talk with Spinner. Spinner would have come clean, I bet. And let's face facts. I mean, the whole kiboshing Dracula for a Sunny musical kind of a selfish move, and I think the school board finally got tired of it and got rid of him. And then episodes 14, 15 are secret. That's when Emma realizes that she isn't handling the whole aftermath great and all that. Anyhow, so Emma realizes that nothing's the same and she's just hasn't recovered from the shooting and all that, although she always bounces back. She goes to the ravine with Jay and thinks she's got her mojo back. Unfortunately, the gonorrhea attack happens and Emma realizes that she possibly has it. Of course, it ruins Alex and Amy because they both are out. And so Manny and Liberty have to step in with Emma in the play. Emma realizes she's not fine and tells Jay, you gave me social disease and all that, and realizes that she needs to fix her problems. The funny thing is, this episode, Secret, actually came out in the US on Canada Day, ironically enough. But yeah, um, Jimmy tries to get Craig Markle to break him out of the hospital to see his favorite band. Eye of the Tigers, when Jimmy finally comes back to Degrassi. Unfortunately, though, Spinner realizes his guilt about it and is worried about it. So he finally tells Jimmy the truth. He gets ostracized, rightfully so. But the fact of the matter is that, Spinner feels bad about it. Although, I mean, he should have confessed earlier. 3 months is too long, as Jimmy says, and all that. And Danny, of course, has his jealousy about JT being with Liberty. What a prick. But Spinner does have to confess his guilt to Hatzilakos, and she expels him, rightfully so. Spinner outs Jay as a co-conspirator, rightfully so. Doesn't do it to Alex. I think he felt that him and Jay, pushing Rick to shoot Jimmy was bad enough, and that Alex should stay out of it. Hatzilakos does piss me off well, she does expel Spinner, yes, but she pisses me off when she says the line, a boy's in a wheelchair and a boy's in a grave because of your stupid actions. I mean, blaming Spinner for why Jimmy's in a wheelchair. Yes. But blaming Spinner for why Rick's in a grave? No. And all that. I don't get it. I don't see it. I'm sorry. Hatzilakos screwed up with this. And all that. I think Hatzilakos was just basically trying to play cool with the school board, basically putting the pressure on Degrassi. I mean, where's the zero tolerance in season 5 when it needs to be? Anyway, Queen of Hearts is when Ellie realizes that she gets the rent money, but then she decides to move back home to her mother because her mother actually is getting better and all that. And then Modern Love is when Paige and Orlando are finally outed in a way. Orlando does the stupid thing by saying Paige was the problem behind it and the obsessed one. Paige tries to redeem herself and all that. She's upset that Simpson wants to get involved, even though Simpson sees them at the park. But of course, Paige does not see the point that Simpson was going to protect her. There was no way Simpson was going to destroy Paige. He was going to go after Olander. Olander finally comes clean and gets fired, and Paige gets no repercussions. Emma decides to have a girls' night, thinking that guys were in trouble, but it feels like a prank war with Chester and his brothers. But that was the last time we would see Chester. Moonlight Desires, the 19th episode, is when Marco's blood drive goes sour because he can't donate because of the HIV virus, because of, the whole thing, stigmatization with gay people and all that. Jay and Spinner decide to try to take vengeance against the school because they were expelled and all that. But somehow Spinner wants to burn the school, but Jay decides, no, this is a stupid move. Spinner goes through summer school to try to fix it. West End Girls happens with Manny and Paige having a massive rivalry. And then Caitlin talks to Kevin Smith because he wants his new movie, Jade and Silent Bob Go Canadian, to be at Degrassi Community School, which is kind of weird. And it feels like to me, with the fact that Hatsel Echoes allows it at school, I think it's a PR move, kind of similar to Raditch. So going down the road on February 7th and 14th, 2005 is when Jay and Silent Bob movie films at Degrassi, but Craig has his problems with Ashley. Ashley's going to head to London. Craig wants to head to London with her, but fails. And, he lives in the boiler room. He's off his bipolar meds. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention when Voices Carry happened that Craig is finally diagnosed with being bipolar and all that. Caitlin and Joey have their relationship issues and all that. And Caitlin does pull the carrot of I saved your house thing, which is kind of dumb in my mind. But anyway, that was the end of season 4. I know it took over 40 minutes to do 2 seasons, which is unusual, but the fact of the matter is that, seasons 3 and 4 were humongous. Like, fans agree that that was the golden era of Degrassi Next Gen was seasons 3 and 4. And season 5 got darker and darker, made darker, and then light, dark, blah, blah, blah. Everything comes full circle. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.